Hi everyone, and welcome to my next video tutorial, which is going to be focused on adding Google authentication to our Django projects. And I'm specifically going to focus on implementing this with Django admin for demonstration purposes. So let's get started. Now, the first thing that you want to have is a simple Django project. So this can be any Django project. So just to give you a brief look at mine. So I just have a simple application here that shows my homepage. I can register and I can log in. Now, these parts here aren't as important. So you just need to have a normal Django application. That's really the upside to it. And of course, as you can see here, I have a simple application directory here, and I have one app called CRM, which of course houses my templates, views, models, etc. for this simple application. So all you need to do is ensure you have a simple Django application to begin with. That is the prerequisite. So let's get started. Now, the next thing that I want you to do is to ensure that you are signed in to a valid Gmail account. So as you can see here, I'm signed into a Gmail account in another tab here. So make sure that you're signed into a Gmail account. I will explain this in just a moment. So just make sure you're logged into a Gmail account. Right, so let's follow the steps here to set up Google authentication. So we can just scroll down here in the documentation, and we can see the steps. So first of all, you're going to want to install the Django Google SSO package. Now, SSO stands for single sign-on. So what we can do essentially is we can go ahead and copy this instruction and head on over to our terminal. I'll stop my server and I'll go ahead and paste in the following. So pip install Django-Google-SSO. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so there are a lot of packages that need to be installed. So all we need to do is we just need to be patient as this process is completed. And then we can just follow with the rest of the steps with the guide that's provided to us with the following package documentation that's been laid out. So let's just give this a moment to be installed. And there we go. So make sure you've installed that package along with all the other sub packages that come along with it. Great. So we've installed that package. Now we need to configure it. So there's quite a few things we need to do. So first of all, we need to add the following to our settings.py, specifically within our installed apps list. Now, for most of you, you should already have django.contrib.messages, which is needed for the authentication messages that come up. Now, what we can do to check that is you can head on over to your current Django project that you want to implement this within. You can head on over to your project settings.py file. Okay, and if you scroll down to your installed apps, you just want to confirm that you have django.contrib.messages within installed apps. It should be here by default, but if for some reason it isn't, you just want to add that in. Next, we need to add in Django Google SSO. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in my list of installed apps. I'm just going to add it down here. Okay, so just keep in mind here, CRM is just my Django app, my custom Django app, so don't worry about that. You just want to make sure you add in Django_Google_SSO to your list of installed apps. Very important. So that's going to be step one. Right, so step two is going to be focused on generating our credentials for the API. So API credentials, or project credentials, should I rather say. And we need to add that into our settings.py file. Now, before we can do this, we need to head on over to Google Cloud to generate these credentials and set everything up. So this is why I said you need to be logged into your Gmail account, okay, so that we can utilize this Gmail account that we are signed in to generate these API credentials. Okay, so make sure you've got that organized and you've got that Gmail account open. So let's go ahead and continue with the second step. Right. So what you need to do is you need to look for Google Cloud. So you can type this in Google here, and you want to go ahead and look for the Cloud Console. So you can just go ahead and click here. I will be sure to attach the link in the description below. Okay, so you're going to log in to the Google Cloud Console. It's going to take a moment. And as soon as you click on the page here, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to accept the terms of service. So this is just a simple Gmail account that I created, and this is why it's important that you are signed into it so that you can get this pop-up. So all you want to do is you just want to agree to the terms. Okay, we don't need to accept the email updates, just the terms of service, and you can say agree and continue here at the bottom right. Okay, all you need to do is just wait for a moment. Okay, next what you can do is you can go ahead and say select a project. Okay, and you want to create a new project. So you can click here in the top right. Okay, now let's give our project a name here. So by default here, we will be able to create 12 projects in our quota. If, however, we need more or less, we can request an increase or we can even delete projects. So I'm going to give my project name, let's call this Cloud with Django project. There we go. So give your project a name here. We can leave the location as is, no organization, that's fine for now. And you can just say create. Okay, so we can see our project is being created here. There we go. So we can see it's been created. This is under notifications, and you can just say select project. All right, there we go. So we can now see that we're now viewing the Cloud with Django project here. So we got that all set up and ready to go. Perfect. So we've got that set. Now let's take a look at our steps here. So what we can also do is we can go ahead and click on the link here that is given to us. So you can go ahead and click on that link. And that will take you to the console.cloud.com API credentials list here. Okay, so as you can see, we are situated here within a new page where we can generate API keys, OAuth client IDs, secret IDs, etc. And all of that, we can set that all up accordingly as we so desire. So now on this tab here, I'm just going to close this. Okay, and now we're going to focus on credentials. So what we can do, first of all, is we can go ahead and say create credentials. And we want to create an OAuth client ID. And this is going to request user consent so that our app can access the user's data. So we want to click on this. And then we're going to go through a whole process of setup wizard. And as you can see here, it's bounded to that particular project that we are going to use it for. So you can just check here that that is the project that you want to utilize this for. Okay. Now we need to configure the consent screen. So we need to go through a whole setup here. So let's say configure consent screen. Okay. So first of all, you need to decide how you want to configure and register your app and the target users. So just keep in mind that you can only associate one app with your project. So one app per project. So we have two types here. So internal, this is only going to be available to users within your organization. And of course, you will not need to submit your app for verification. And then we also have external here. So this is available to any test user with a Google account, and your app will start in testing mode and only be available to users you add to the list of test users. So we're just going to, for now, do testing. So we're going to choose external. Okay. And you can scroll down and say create. Now you can see the list of steps here. So at first we're on OAuth consent screen. Then we have scopes, test users, and summary. So here is how the information will be presented to our users here. We can see app name wants access to your Google account. Select what app name can access. Make sure you trust app name. So of course, what we're going to want to do is define an app name here. So this is what our users see. So I'm going to call this Django app as an example. Next, what you want to do is define a user support email. So this is for users to contact you with questions about their consent. So I'm going to keep it easy and simple. I'm just going to use the email that I'm using right now. So what I can do is just copy this. Okay, and I'm just going to, oh, it already picks it up for you. So you can just go ahead and click on that. So just make sure it's the same one that you've used to create your account. Right, you're more than welcome to add an app logo. So if you have a logo for your app that you want to add in, that's something you can do. Okay, then we have the app domain here. So this is something that you can add in if you desire in terms of the application homepage, privacy policy link, and terms of service link. So we're going to keep this rather simple and not delve too deep into this, but this is just something that you can look at later on once you've experimented the basics of it. Now, under authorized domains here, we want to set an authorized domain. So let's take a look at the steps that we had before within the documentation that was laid out. So let's go ahead and check that again. Right. So if I look here at the guide here, so we were on, see where we were here, step 2. Okay, so we're still going through the process here, so we are good to go. However, if we scroll down, we can see the Google SSO allowable domain. So we need to let Django Google SSO also create users for allowable domains here. So we can put, for example, example.com. That's something we can try. But what I'd recommend you do for the moment is to set it at gmail.com. Okay, so this is something that I would recommend you set. So what we can do is here in edit app registration, we want to set an authorized domain here by saying add domain at gmail.com. Okay, because remember that the email addresses will be on gmail.com. However, if you are part of an organization that has a registered domain name, you can enter in your domain name right here. So I'm just going to show you this as a test from a Gmail account's perspective as an authorized domain. If you have an actual legitimate domain with, for example, Google Workspace, you can add in that domain right here, and you can just follow along with what I'm explaining here and what's in the guide. So just something I wanted to explain so that you're aware of what to expect and if you want to make adjustments. But for all of you following along, if this is your first time experimenting along with me, you want to set that to gmail.com to make it as simple as possible. Right, then we can see we can add the developer contact information here. So again, this is going to specifically be this particular user. And I'm going to copy that and enter it here. So the same email that I'm using to set everything up, I'm just going to assign. Okay, if you're happy with all of that, you can save and continue. Just remember, you need to set this as gmail.com. Unless, like I said, you have an official domain that is set with Google Workspace, etc., you can go ahead and adjust that. So let's say save and continue. Okay, so we have completed the OAuth consent screen. We're now on scopes. So in the scope section, you're just going to set the permissions that you request users to authorize for your app and to allow any specific type of private user data from their Google account. So that's something that you can adjust here accordingly. However, this is something that we don't need to look at a little bit out of scope. So let's say save and continue. Now we're on test users, so you can see here, while publishing status is set to testing, only test users are able to access the app, and the cap here is on 100, and of course this is counted over the entire lifetime of the app. So here is where you can add in any test users that you would like to test with. All right, so I will elaborate further on in the details later on, but for now you can just say save and continue. Okay, so here is the summary. You can see everything that here is set, such as the user type. It will be external. So we're going to be utilizing our external application. So Django, we have our app name here, Django app. So whenever we are going to be signing in with Google SSO, it's going to say Django app wants access to, etc., etc. The support email here I've set, you can add in an app logo, an application homepage link, a privacy policy link, and a terms of service link if you desire. And the authorized domain is going to be gmail.com, so from all Gmail accounts. We also have the email address set. All right, so if you're happy with everything, you can just say back to a dashboard. Okay, so this is the first step that we need to do in order to generate our credentials. So now what you can do is navigate to credentials here on the left. Okay, great. Now we need to click again on create credentials, and now we can click on OAuth client ID. Now we can choose application type here. So ours is going to be a web application. We can give a name. You can customize the name that you have that you want to set for this OAuth client ID. So I'm just going to call it web client 1, the default. And you want to scroll down and add the authorized redirect URI. So you can just go ahead and say add URI. And if we look at the docs here, okay, for the moment you need to skip step 2. We will get to this now. You just want to add in the callback URI here in your Google console on authorized redirect URI here. So as you can see, we have that set. We just need to add it in. So what you can do is you can copy this here. And there is adjustment that you need to make, but I'll explain now. You can copy that, paste it in. Now, our application here is at, we don't explicitly say localhost. We have 127.0.0.1, and I want you to just copy that and replace localhost, or else you're going to have an issue. So you just want to put that in. Oh, let's just remove. Okay, let me just clean this up here. There we go. So make sure that you've got exactly the same as me. I will actually zoom in so you can see exactly. So make sure you've got the following URI set here. So it's going to be localhost, but in our case, it will be 127.0.0.8000/Google_SSO/callback/. So make sure you add in this authorized URI. Just keep in mind here that it may take 5 minutes to a few hours for the settings to take effect here. Usually 5 minutes is what it will take, but just keep that in mind. So you can just go ahead and create your OAuth client ID. So let's say create. There we go. So now we are greeted with the client that has been created, and we can access our client ID and secret ID. So what you want to do essentially is you can either download the JSON or you can copy the client and ID and the client secret. Now, what I want you to do is look at the docs here. So let's go on back to step 2, and you just want to copy the following here and add it to your settings.py. So we now have our API credentials, and I'll show you how you can get your project ID. So let's copy this, and in settings.py, you can put this anywhere. I'm going to put it here. And let's go back to credentials. We want to copy the client ID. You can click on this icon, and this is client ID. You can replace that and put it in. And now client secret, that is here. You can copy that, remove that, and then project ID. But what you can do now, once you have got these this information set here, you can just scroll down and say OK. Great. So we can say OAuth client created, and if we scroll down, we can see OK, that has been set. So I'll zoom out here a bit. Okay, so we've created our client ID. Now what we need to do, as you can see, is we need that project ID. So what you can do is look at your project here. You can just click here, and here with the project that you're currently situated on, you can just copy this ID that you have, and you just want to replace this and add in your project ID as follows. So that is the API credentials that you need to set. So make sure you've done so. Right, once you're happy with that, you can just say cancel, and there we go. So let's head on over to Django Google SSO. So step 2, done. We've got our credentials. Step 3, done. We've added that URI. Step 4 here is to let Django Google SSO auto create users for allowable domains. Great. So again, in settings.py, you want to copy the following, and remember the domain that I mentioned, we need to set it to gmail.com. So here, I'm just going to paste that in and change this to gmail.com. Perfect. Great. Now what we can do in our urls.py, we can add in the Django Google SSO views. So let's go ahead and do just that. So in our urls.py file, make sure that this is in your main urls.py file. So remember, this is the one where your settings.py file is also situated. Just want to make that distinction. So make sure that you are adding in the include function and you're importing it from the django.urls module. So the add include function you need to add. So now in my URL patterns list, I want to add in the URL provided here. So I'm going to copy this under step 5. And I'm going to paste that in. Now the styling is weird, so let me just fix that. Okay, just make sure you organize it and looks a bit clean. It's just structured weirdly. So make sure you add in this URL here accordingly. Very important that you do so for the Django Google SSO. Perfect. Right, so we've got that set. Step 6 is to run the migration. So what you can do is you can go ahead and run that command in your terminal. So I'm going to say python manage.py migrate. There we go. So we can see that's been set. All right, and then what we can do is we can start Django and port itself and open our browser in Django admin to see the Google SSO button. So essentially, we can just run our server. So go ahead and do just that. And we can just put in /admin, just like that. And there we go. We can see we can sign in with Google. So what I'd recommend you do at the moment here is just to wait a few minutes. So I'm just going to wait a few minutes here. And the reason for that is I just want to make sure that the details that we specified for this web client here. So if I scroll down here, you can see here for this authorized redirect URI to work, it can take up to 5 minutes for the effect to take into place. Now it's been probably longer than that because we configured a lot of things in the steps here. But just for clarity, I'd recommend just waiting a few minutes just to make sure everything is working fine before signing in with Google. And I'll show you how this works. So I'll wait a few minutes and let's go ahead then and test it out. All right. Now, before we can essentially go on ahead and sign in with Google, we actually need to get our account set up. Now, we're going to do this test with another Google account, okay, since the account that we've been utilizing here that I told you to log in the beginning, we've utilized that to create our Google Cloud settings and to integrate our project, etc. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is to sign out of that Gmail account and just sign into another Gmail account. So for now, I'm just going to say sign out. Okay, and this will of course sign me out as well. Okay, that's fine. Great, okay. So I have another account here which I'm going to sign into. So just a random Gmail account that I created, so codemaster809@gmail.com. So choose another Gmail account. So I'm going to choose this one as an example. And I want to sign into it. So I want to sign in with the password I know for this other Gmail account. And this is the one we're going to use for the test. Okay, there we are. So we are signed into this Gmail account now as a test now. Right, so we can head on to Django admin here. And what I want you to do is to create a super user. So you need to pay attention very clearly here. So I'm going to say python manage.py create super user. Now you want to choose a default username. So I'm going to keep it as the default here. However, you can change it if you wish. I can change it to, for example, admin 101. That doesn't matter. Then the email address here, this is very crucial. So the email address that you set here must be the email address of a valid Gmail account. So here I have a valid Gmail address here, and I'm going to use this one right here as the test. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to paste that in exactly as is. Then the password, you can set as anything that you wish. Okay, and this is for Django side. There we go. The only thing that needs to match is the email address that you use, because remember, we want to be able to sign in with Google, hence with this Gmail account. So remember, that's important for you to set. Great, so let's now run our server like normal. Great. Now let's sign in with that user on the default. So we can sign in with the default username that we have. So let's go ahead and do that. So we had admin 101. And we can go ahead and sign in like normal. So we can see here we've got that username set and the email address also set here under our admin user. If we go to Google SSO users, we've got no Google SSO users just yet, and we're going to link our Google sign in with this particular user based on that email address that we have assigned here. So let's log out, log in again. Great, now let's do the process. Sign in with Google. Okay, we want to sign in with this account here, the one that we have just logged into here. And it's going to say, choose an account to continue to Django app. So I'm going to choose this one here. Notice that it says Django app, because remember when we configured the screen flow, we set the app to Django app. And as you can see here, all of that data has been used by continuing. Google will show your name, email address, language preference, and profile picture with Django app. So let's say continue. And there we go. We can see we're logged into Django admin easy, just like that, simple. So we can see we are automatically signed in with ease. So we can see now that that Google SSO user is binded now to our admin user here, admin 101, because remember that email address that we set here is binded to that particular user. Hence that Google SSO user has that unique ID accordingly, as you can see here, and it's binded to that user. So let's log out and do some tests and perform different scenarios. So let's say I were to log out, sign out. Okay, and let's do a few tests. Let's log in like normal with our Django super user credentials. So admin 101. Okay, log in. Okay, let's go to Google SSO users. Okay, we can see we're still logged in fine. We can log in Django admin our own way. Let's sign in with Google. Choose that user. Now we're entering in the password, so we're doing this from scratch. So the password for your Gmail account. Okay, continue. And there we go, we signed in that way as well. So you can see we have two ways in which we can actually sign into our account. The only crucial element is that the email address is the same so that it can be linked up for the first time that you're logging in with Google SSO. Alright guys, so that's it for this video tutorial, and that encompasses how you can integrate Django Google SSO specifically to add Google authentication to your Django projects. And as my demonstration, I showed you how you can integrate this with Django admin. So that's it guys for this video tutorial, and of course I'll see you in the next video, and as always, thank you for the support, I really appreciate it, and thank you again, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.